So when we say, let's continue from the protecting intellectual property rights. So when we say firms exploit loopholes in patent laws by filing for patent protection before entering the market. So if you go to the internet and check, for example, www.nissan.com, you might think that this website is owned by Nissan company, right? Everybody is familiar with Nissan. But the thing is, this website is owned by a small computer repair and sale shop. And the thing is, they even have lawsuits with the Nissan company because the Nissan company has claimed this name, but the problem is this name has already been registered by this company before Nissan does. So the same thing happens with patents. So firms, they try to change the name or use some loopholes so that they can copy the patents of very well-known businesses, okay? And International Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property, this is also called the Paris Convention. So this Paris Convention was established in 1883, and it's honored by about 100 countries. And this Paris Convention facilitates a multi-country patent registration and ensures that once a company files, it has a right of proper priority in other countries for 1 year from the date. So from the date this patent is requested by the firm, this company has the right to get the name and the priority of getting the patent, okay? So actually after this, there was a 1986 other convention called the Bahrain Convention, which has added more more rules to this Paris Convention. So Patent Cooperation Treaty is the other one, where there are about 100 countries cooperate with patent application. And when we say cooperate, it means that when a patent is registered, for example, in Korea, then other countries also cooperate. They share a single database where they can track whether this patent is already been given for another firm, right? And there is the European Patent Convention, which works in EU and in Switzerland. So all countries in the EU, that 27, and the Switzerland, if they register, any firm in this country is registered their patent to European Patent Convention. As we have said, it works for all the 27 countries within the European Union and also in Switzerland, okay? So these are companies filing the most intellectual property applications under the Paris Convention Act. So you see the Huawei Technologies in China has the largest number of patent applications filed, and the United States is the second, China is again the third, South Korea, the Samsung Electronics has the fourth largest patent registered, okay, which is 1,683 patents application filed, for approval. Okay, this is actually up to in 2015. Maybe there are more. The number might increase than this one. Then let's talk about other patent issues. So, as I've said, US patents are given for 20 years in accordance with the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. Actually, previously, US used to give only 70 years. 70 years means you have a patent on something, right? And it takes 1 year to get approved of the patent, right? So when we say 70 years plus 1 year of the registration, so which means about, it takes 18 years. And there are some countries that give patent for the lifetime of the inventor, okay? So the years might differ from country to country. So later on, US also has taken patent to 20 years in accordance with the General Agreement on Trade, Tariff and Trade. So US laws are harmonized with those in the EU and Japan. Okay, so patents in Japan are narrower than the US. So companies like Caterpillar cannot protect critical innovations. So there are so many similar inventions like the Caterpillar that still work in Japan. And global software protection, so the US copyright law protects computer code. So it's, you know, computer codes are very complicated to protect because its software codes are very big or very large in number, and you can have different codes, but you can have the same website. Okay, I can use different programming language to design the same website. Okay, so it's a little bit confusing. Is it the problem? Is it with the layout of the design of the website or the code? So, and most of this software protection patents are in the US. Okay, so US Patent and Trademark Office protects this software starting from 1981. Then EU covered software in 1997. Okay, so the American Innovation Act, which was laid in 2011, protects companies against trolls who file multiple patents to get large tech companies to pay them. And patent trial and appeal board resolves patent infringement. Okay, so anyways, the highest software patent is registered by the US, and as I've said, software patent protections are a little bit complicated. That's why other countries are a little bit behind the US in protecting the software applications. So US is a country with the highest tech companies. So you know that. So that's why US has taken the initiative to protect its software from infringement. Okay. So, okay, I think I have one question. Does the black marketing business, which is strengthened by the local government and also because of some barriers not to go for local legal businesses, is helpful in terms of generating more revenue rather than to be legal business for parent company and the local government where the business is done? So the thing is, piracy by law is illegal. Okay, or smuggling of products into a country or black market is illegal. But in international financial management, so there is another side of piracy. For example, as we have said, in China, highest tax is imposed on imports. Okay, so when you impose high tax on imports, that means the price of the products in China will increase. Okay, and if price of products increase or products are very expensive, then low-income peoples cannot afford to buy these products, right? So, but when a product is smuggled into the country using piracy, okay, so these products will be sold in the market with a lowest price, or they will be very cheap, right? Because there was no tax paid on these products, okay? So sometimes the government intentionally leaves or they ignore the black market and also the piracy, because to some extent they support the poor people within the country. Okay, so even though it is illegal, they also provide for the economy, but as a rule, as an international law, then piracy or black market is not legal. Okay. Then the other issue is about antitrust. So these antitrust laws are intended to maintain free competition by limiting the concentration of economic powers. And they are laws which are designed to combat restrictive business practices and to encourage competition among businesses. So these antitrust laws are enforced by, for example, the Federal Trade Commission in the US. So this belongs to Federal Trade Commission in the US, Fair Trade Commission in Japan, and Economic Commission in EU. So they are the ones that force these antitrust laws. And the, for example, the Sherman Act of 1890s prohibits certain restrictive business practices, including fixing prices, limiting production, allocating markets, okay, or any other schemes designed to limit or avoid competition. So mostly these advanced countries, they promote the free trade, and in promoting free trade, they believe that market price and supply and demand of products will be determined by the market itself. So there is no need to fix prices, there is no need to limit production, there is no need to allocate markets, okay? So this applies to the US companies outside US borders and to foreign companies operating within the US, because you have to abide by the rule of the US, okay? So the Wacom is a little bit busy. Let me just give me 1 minute. Okay, so it's working again. So we are here, right? So next is about licensing and trade secrets. Licensing is a contractual agreement in which a licensor allows a license to use patents, trademarks, trade secrets, technology, and other intangible assets in return for royalty payments and other form of compensation. So, for example, you know McDonald's, right? McDonald's is not, we have McDonald's in Korea, right? But McDonald's is not a Korean brand, right? So this license was sold to Korean investors, and Korean investors own these businesses in Korea, right? So from there are about 5-6 ways we engage in international business. We have licensing, we have franchising, we have joint venture, we have foreign direct investment. Okay, these are the ways a company can engage in international business. And the first and easiest way to engage in international business is through licensing. So in licensing, a company sells its trade secrets, it could be, or trademarks to, or patents to a business, okay? Then other investors will buy this and have to pay royalties to the owners of the trademark, okay? So even though we have the owners of McDonald's within Korea are the Korean investors, they pay license fee to the parent company or the owner of the McDonald's trademark in the US, okay? So the amount of money could be limited, but they have to pay. And in licensing, they might also get involved in some marketing activities of the business, okay? And if you go further to franchising, the interference of the franchisee to the franchisor on the franchisee, it increases, okay? For example, it could be being involved in sales activities, okay? Or consulting activities, something like that. Then when you go down joint venture, you own partly. When you go direct foreign investment, you own the whole company by yourself, okay? So licensing is a kind of agreement between the licensee is the person buying the license, and licensor is the one issuing the license to use the patent, trademark, trade secrets, technology, okay? So the important considerations are what assets may be licensed, what are the assets that could be licensed, what, how to price the assets, and what rights are granted. So this license issues should be discussed between the businesses so that they can agree on royalty and compensation and carry on their businesses. And the other is trade secrets are confidential information or knowledge that has commercial value and is not in the public domain, and for which steps have been taken to keep it secret. Okay? So to prevent that is to prevent disclosure of this secret to other people. Okay, use confidentiality contracts. So the Uniform Trade Secret Act has been adopted by most of the states within the US, and NAFTA was the first international agreement protecting trade secrets. Okay? And TRIPS are trade-related intellectual property rights. So TRIPS is trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights are signed by the members of General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. And the other is bribery and corruption. So bribery and corruption is either to give money or to receive money, okay? If you give money for somebody for some favor, or receive money from somebody else to do some favor, then that's called bribery, right? So the Foreign Corrupt Practice Act requires publicly held companies to institute internal accounting controls that would record all transactions. So actually, this bribery and corruption cases came into light after the Watergate. So I think most of you remember the US president called Richard Nixon, right? So Nixon was involved in a Watergate scandal about this bribery. And after this scandal, then, so this act is, you can say, this is a legacy of this Watergate scandal. Well, it was said, or it was created or prepared after this Watergate scandal of the US President Richard Nixon. Okay, so it makes it a crime for the US corporation to bribe an official of a foreign government or political party to obtain or retain business. So according to this Foreign Corrupt Practice Act, if a US company, for example, operating in Korea, bribes or gives money to an official within Korea, then this Foreign Corruption Practice Act of the US will hold him accountable. Okay? So it prohibits payments to third parties when there is a reason to believe it may be channeled to foreign officials. And next to that, there was this Omnibus Trade and Competitiveness Act, which was prepared during during Ronald Reagan. You know, I think most of you also know who is Ronald Reagan, right? So it was after Richard Nixon. So the thing is, so most of the businesses have complained that this Foreign Corrupt Practice Act is very strict, that US businesses in foreign countries cannot operate because they are tied up by this Foreign Corrupt Practice Act, that they cannot give any money or any kind of favor to the government officials. Okay, because it will be considered as a bribe. So Ronald Reagan has seen this and has a little bit relaxed it. So they allow for Greece payments to cut red tape. Example, getting shipments through customs, getting permits. So I don't know why this is approved, but this basically means that they have in this act, they said it is legal for US businesses operating in foreign countries to give money for the officials, okay? So Greece payment means payment which is given, not too much amount of money, but a little bit amount of money given to government officials for processing something, okay? But I don't think that is the right thing to do. Okay, that's anyways. That's my opinion, because whether it is big or small, bribery is bribery, right? So the thing is, so many business owners, they complained that this Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which was prepared after the Watergate scandal, is very strict and very serious, that they cannot operate, for example, in Africa, because they think that it is common in Africa to give money or to bribe the officials if you want your process to be completed fast. Okay, and that's why the government allows for Greece payments to cut red tape, which means they are allowed to bribe a little bit to the officials if they do them some favor. And the other thing is a conflict resolution. So, as you know, most litigations, the most litigious nation in the world is the US. And because US has so many conflicts, disputes with so many foreign countries, okay? So basically US has more lawyers than any country in the world, okay? And also US is the most litigious nation on earth, okay? And there is needed, arbitration is needed. This arbitration, some of you might have taken the course called trade arbitration or something like that. It settles disputes outside of the court. So groups agree in advance to abide by 3-member panel discussion. And for example, if there is a conflict between, let's say, US and Korea, 3-member panel discussion means the US and Korea, they will not go to a court, an international court, but they will choose one more, a member, okay? So by the willingness of both the countries, for example, if China is involved, then the 3 countries will solve this problem. But the third party is chosen by both the countries involved in in the litigation. Okay. So in 1958, United Nations Convention on the Recognition and Enforcement of Foreign Arbitral Award. So the New York Convention, this is the most important treaty regarding international arbitration, which is signed by about 157 countries, almost more than 80% of the world nations. Okay. And the other topic we have here is about regulatory environment. So agencies, both governmental and non-governmental agencies, enforce laws or set guidelines for conducting businesses. And there are so many agencies, regulatory agencies. Okay, so EU has, for example, 15,000 lobbyists. And this 15,000 lobbyists represent 1,400 companies and non-profit organizations globally. Okay, so there are so many agencies, and these agencies could be governmental or non-governmental agencies that enforce laws or set guidelines for how to conduct business in a foreign country. And the last topic we have is our regional economic organization, the European Union. So most of you are already familiar with what a European Union is. So the Treaty of Rome has established this European Union, which became the European Community, which finally became the European Union or EU. And it created the Council of Ministers from countries within the EU or members of the EU, which is the main decision-making body along with the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the European Court of Justice. So this European Council guides the integration-related issues like the monetary union. And last week, I guess, when we talk about this free trade agreements, we have mentioned about the economic union, if you remember, which was the highest in the hierarchy. So in the economic union, they even require countries to have this free trade countries to have the same government. But the thing is, for example, in European Union, they have the same monetary policy, but they have different fiscal policy. Right? So fiscal policy and monetary policy are different anyways. But in European Union, there are 27 countries, right? 27 of these countries follow the monetary policy which is set forward by the European Union. Okay, but they can exercise their own fiscal policies. Okay. So, anyways, this is all I have for today. This is our 5th chapter, and I want you to focus on this three major issues. So the first one is the political environment. The second one is the international law. The third one is sidestepping legal issues. So in the political environment, I want you to identify and also to understand each of these things in a political environment: the sovereignty, the tax, okay, these things, and how they affect international businesses. And the international law: who is going to take care of conflicts, or when an international business is in some kind of problem, is it going to be handled by the host country or the home country? Okay. And also some sidestepping issues like the intellectual property laws. Okay, so I want you to go through this. So anyways, as I've said previously, we have these five chapters will be chapters that we use for our midterm exam. So next week I will be wrapping up all the 5 chapters, excluding this one. So we'll talk about the previous 4 chapters, and we will talk about exam. Okay, so I haven't yet decided the our school has decided that midterm exam is up to us. We can make it online, or we can give home take assignment or questions. I'm thinking about giving an assignment for the midterm exam, but anyways, I will talk about the exam next week, and also we'll wrap up all the previous chapters. So our midterm exam will be on May the 12th. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can send me through the portal, and so these are our 5 chapters for the midterm exam. Okay. So next week will be more relaxed class. Okay. So prepare any questions from chapter 1 to chapter 5, so that we will finish wrapping up very. In the first 40 minutes, we'll finish the wrap up. Then in the second session, I will talk about the questions, any questions you have. Okay. So the midterm exam, I will talk in detail about next week, and I will tell you when to submit. Okay. So maybe the exam will be given on May 12th, and you have to submit on May 13th or 14th. I haven't decided yet, but let me get the questions, and I'll talk about the exam in detail next week. Okay. So that's all. And also, I would like to remind you to watch the videos, all the videos, okay? Except the ones that are still loading. So wait for it to finish. But you have to watch the ones that are already uploaded, because that is how I will take the attendance, okay? And you know that the attendance will be taken out of 25%. So for each videos, I will be counting as the attendance. So please watch the videos, okay? And okay, thank you, Robert. Have a good day, and I'll see you all next week, okay? Good day.